Please be seated.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Or as they say where I come from, yo! Hey, thanks for coming to trivia last night. That was awesome. One thing I learned is that there are a whole lot of people here who know a lot about things that just aren't very important. I guess that's the whole point of trivia. So before we get to our lesson, I'm going to lead with an illustration about a man who unfortunately was bitten by a rabid dog. Yeah, very sad. So he was bitten by his dog. The dog had rabies, so the man was rushed to the hospital where it was determined that, yes, he too had rabies. Now, unfortunately, this happened in a time where there was no cure, there was no medication, so he was out of luck. The doctor comes into his room and says, look, I can make you as comfortable as possible, but, there's not much I can do for you. So, unfortunately, this is it. So I suggest that you get all your affairs in order, maybe write up a will, and we'll take it from there. Then he leaves the room. So this poor guy, what just happened? So he gets out a pen and starts writing feverishly. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes. The doctor comes back in the room and says, wow, I got to tell you, I'm really impressed. You really took this will writing seriously. And the dying man says, no, doc, this isn't a will. This is a list of all the people I'm going to bite before I die. We all love, let's be honest, we all love stories like that, right? Revenge. Don't get mad, get even. I want to talk about David today. I feel like as we exit the fruits of the Spirit, we can talk about David every single week. Maybe it's because we've also talked about the Psalms at night, but what an incredible example. One thing I know for sure is that God has called us, all of us, to be representatives of His, to be salt and to be light. And that's, hopefully you've gotten that from our study of the fruit of the Spirit. But as we just sang, the battle does not belong to us. It belongs to the Lord. So thank you, Dan, for inserting that song in the last second. We're going to talk about self-control. University of Pennsylvania study. This is amazing. Research. 2 million people they surveyed. 2 million people, which in and of itself is incredible. And what they wanted to find out was how people rank their own strengths. 24 categories. 2 million people. Guess what came in dead last? Yes. Self-control. It's not easy. We kind of talked a little bit about it this morning in class. But that was in the bottom slot. So this is it. We are done the fruits. It's been a lot of fun. We laughed. We cried. I've cried. Self-control. This is it. It's essentially the ability to control our feelings, our emotions, our behavior, and desires in the face of external demands. So I want to publicly state that I'm willing to start a diet. I'm going to start a diet this week. But yes, no, in fact, they say that the best day to start a diet is tomorrow. And it doesn't really matter what day that is. But anyway, I'm putting that out there so everybody can hold me accountable. But that takes a whole lot of discipline, obviously. Self-control. And it's not just food, right? We could talk about abstaining from sex or alcohol or medication or, dare I say, screen time. Someone told me a couple days ago that I was a teacher, and she said that her students, one day, not a week, one day, one whole day, they put away their cell phones. And one of them almost didn't make it. But they did. We're happy to report that everybody survived. It's amazing. Self-control is important. King Solomon knew it. Proverbs 25:28. Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. So we're going to talk about David and Saul. It's an amazing story. We don't have enough time to go through all the ins and outs and ups and downs. First 2 points are critical. Number one, we need to be in harmony with God's will for us. Not the other way around, but God's will for us. And I'm kind of chuckling here because And so I can define self-control and you can describe it to me, but how much harder is it for you to develop? It's scary, isn't it? When you're about to lose control, sometimes, usually, we relate it to anger. And if there's any high school kids here today, you know what I'm talking about. If you're in class and there's always that one troublemaker who knows maybe you are the troublemaker, who knows exactly how to get the teacher fired up. And you know it's coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. And how awkward and uncomfortable is it for you when the teacher is just freaking out and screaming? It's an awful feeling. But now, imagine if you are that teacher or someone else in a different example. When you lose control of yourself, it is the most helpless and awful feeling in the world. And don't pretend that you don't know what I'm talking about, because we have all been there, particularly if we have children. So, it is a little bit counterintuitive, though. If we're a Christian, don't we want God to control everything? Well, yes. You know the saying, let go and let God. I'll be the co-pilot, let God drive. But still, it's that whole responsibility thing. We are responsible for our actions. In the office, there's a little poem I like. It says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I read that every day, and it's easy to fall short, but it is great, great advice. So David and Saul, you've got a shining example of power of self-control. You have Saul, who was a man who looked the part of a king, and David is more of a man who played the part. Very quick lesson. The time of Judges, everything went haywire. There were no kings, no one was in control, people did whatever they wanted, and it was a mess. Fast forward a little bit later, you've got Samuel. Not necessarily a king, he wasn't a king, he was more of a prophet, but he was the de facto leader of Israel. So what did the people of Israel say to him? We want a what? Very good, you guys are good. We want a king. And Samuel said, well, what's wrong with me? He said, nothing. We want a king. And then what did God say to Samuel? Listen, they're not rejecting you as much as they're rejecting me. So Samuel says to these people, listen, it's not a good idea to have a king. Doesn't matter. We want one anyway. All these other nations have kings. We want a king. So Samuel's sitting there, what do you want me to do? And God says, you know what? If they want a king, I'll give you Saul. Now, how does that end? Not very well. So you've got Saul. And we all know about David, right? David all of a sudden becomes a threat because who did he beat in that famous fight? Goliath. So what we're going to do is look at 1 Samuel 24, first 15 verses. But before that, let me get, right after he killed Goliath is when it all started going downhill for Saul. Let me preface this by reading chapter 18, verses 6 through 9. I'm reading out of the NRSV today. As they were coming home when David returned from killing the Philistine, the women came out of all the towns of Israel singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tambourines, with songs of joy, and with musical instruments. And the women sang to one another as they made merry, Saul has killed his thousands, David his 10,000s. Saul was very angry, for this saying displeased him. He said, they have ascribed to David 10,000, and to me, they have ascribed thousands. What more can he have but the kingdom? So Saul eyed David from that point on. You see, so what's David becoming to Saul? He's becoming a threat. He was jealous. All the bad emotions and feelings and behavior characteristics that you don't want in a leader, Saul was beginning to exhibit. So at this point, we're going to get very quick here. Saul tries to kill David quite a few times, and to make matters worse, Saul's own son, Jonathan, is David's best friend. So there's all kind of Jerry Springer-esque stuff going on. It's insane. And finally, in chapter 23, before we get to today's verse, you've got Saul, and he finally has David where he wants him. He's in the cave. He's about to get him. But then, out of nowhere, seemingly, a messenger came saying, hurry, Saul, and come, for the Philistines have made a raid on the land. How about that for divine intervention? Saul stopped pursuing David at that particular point. So here we are today in chapter 24. I am going to split this in half. Let's read the first 7 verses of chapter 24 in 1 Samuel. When Saul returned from following the Philistines, he was told, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to look for David and his men in the direction of the rocks and the wild goats. He came to the sheepfolds beside the road where there was a cave. And Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave. The men of David said to him, Here is the day of which the Lord said to you, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it seems good to you. Then David went in and stealthily cut off the corner of Saul's cloak. Afterward, David was stricken to the heart because he had cut off the corner of Saul's cloak. He said to his men, listen carefully, he said to his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to raise my hand against him, for he is the Lord's anointed. So David scolded his men severely and did not permit them to attack Saul. Then Saul got up and left the cave and went on his way. Let's stop there. That's amazing. What a story. And we're not even halfway done it yet. Isn't it interesting that, oh, by the way, Saul happened to choose that cave to go in? And you've got all kinds of things at work here, one of which is peer pressure. I mean, you see David's friends, they're kind of elbowing, just go get him. He's right. Go get him. But he doesn't. David respects the order, doesn't he? I don't know that he respects Saul as much as he respects Saul's position. It's like, you don't need to love the President of the United States, but one thing we do need to do is at least respect the position. I don't care who's in office. And David knew that. I mean, Saul was essentially, he was the Thanksgiving turkey, ready to be carved. The question I ask you, could you exercise that restraint? Think about what Saul was trying to kill David. Made his life miserable. This went on for about 15 years. Could you exercise that self-control? Let's look at verses 8 through 15. Afterwards, David also rose up and went out of the cave and called after Saul, My lord, the king. When Saul looked behind him, David bowed with his face to the ground and did obeisance, which means respect. David said to Saul, Why do you listen to the words of those who say David seeks to do you harm? This very day your eyes have seen how the Lord gave you into my hand in the cave. Some urged me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not raise my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. See, my father, which, by the way, implies a covenantal relationship there. See the corner of your cloak in my hand. For by the fact that I cut off the corner of your cloak and did not kill you, you may know for certain that there is no wrong or treason in my hands. I have not sinned against you, though you are hunting me to take my life. May the Lord judge between me and you. May the Lord avenge me on you. But my hand shall not be against you. As the ancient proverb says, out of the wicked comes forth wickedness. But my hand should not be against you. Against whom has the king of Israel come out? Whom do you pursue? A dead dog? A single flea? May the Lord therefore be judge and give sentence between me and you. May he see to it and plead my cause and vindicate me against you. Whew. There's a lot there. Talk about an opportunity that's relinquished. Let me ask you, and this is rhetorical, of course, if David would have just killed Saul, do you think anyone really would have cared? There were no Bill of Rights and Constitution in the American legal system going on at this particular point. Nobody liked Saul. Nobody would have cared if he killed him. Everybody was asking him to do it. Think about how much easier David's life would have been if he just said, you know what, man, you are right. Enough with Saul. But but he had too much respect for God. He exercised self-control. That was true restraint. Saul was toast, and he didn't realize it. If you're being chased, I'll give a rabid dog example again. If you're being chased by a rabid dog, and you go down an alley and it's just a dead end, and it's you and the dog, and you're basically a slab of meat, the only thing that is saving you from being lunch is a miracle. Well, Saul got that miracle that day, and the miracle was self-control. It's an amazing story here. As you look, David knows full well. He knows full well who is in the right. And I think he knows that Saul is out of his mind. It doesn't matter. He still left him off the hook. Because he says, my hand shall not be against you. That's 13. David has the defender. He has a deliverer, a vindicator in the Lord. He tells us as much. Can we let go like that? Can we not harm the person who has done us so much harm? Can we, and I've said this before too, can we love the unlovable? It is so easy to talk about that, and such a completely different story to actually go through. Here's the thing. We are God's vessels. We don't use him. He uses us. He uses you. It's a dark world. You have to help in the revival process. Okay, you, when I say you, I'm talking to me as well. We need to be prayer warriors. We need to use the Holy Spirit that is inside us. We need to stop doing what we're doing and actually read the Bible. It does amazing things when that happens. We need each other. Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. I look around here today, and I don't see an impossible dream. I see a great opportunity. I mean, there are roughly 216 seats here in this auditorium. And you don't have to count now. Just take my word on it. I've got more time during the week than a lot of you do. Put it that way. Are we ever going to... Is the point of us being here to fill every seat? That is not the main point. It would be great. But here's the thing. There are so many people that we know that are dying to fill these seats, and they don't have an opportunity because we don't tell them. And I'm guilty as well. It is about our responsibility. You have an awesome responsibility to be his vessel. You have an awesome responsibility as a Christian. When we shine as disciples, and by the way, disciples, discipline. What's the main discipline that we're talking about today? Arguably the hardest one, self-control. Sometimes you don't have to win every single argument, right? So sometimes it's okay to lose a battle in order to win a war. Apologetics, the defense of our faith, it's important, but it's not going to turn someone from their ways and be baptized. It's us as the shining examples. We need to choose wisely. It was not David's job to kill Saul, and he knew better. He chose not to. He chose to let God fight for him. The battles that he could not. The battle belongs to the Lord. Acts 7:60. This is just a fascinating part of the Bible, isn't it? Then he fell on his knees and cried out, Lord, do not hold this sin against them. Okay, quick trivia. Who's he? Stephen. Guys, you're so good. Remember I said you knew a lot of things that weren't important last night? Well, this is important. That's an incredible story. And then, of course, Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And it's almost like David saying, Saul, listen, man, you do not have all of the facts here, okay? And I'm not going to take advantage of you because of that. But like David, like Stephen, Jesus knew what the end game looked like. He knew that he could leave vengeance in the hand of a mighty, a willing, and an able God. We can choose to respond to evil with good, to rise above the instinct to get even. That stuff works really well in movies. And you know what? It's great to root for good guys to exact revenge on their enemies in movies.